All right, let's dive in. Today, we're really getting into a fascinating part of the world, Malaysia.
We are, and we're using a pretty comprehensive travel guide as our source. It's called Discover Malaysia, a complete travel guide. We're focusing on the bits about top spots and planning your travel.
Yeah, and our goal here isn't just to read it out. We want to pull out the really key stuff,
Yeah.
the interesting facts, the practical advice.
Basically give you a shortcut to understanding why Malaysia is such a draw and, well, how you might actually put a trip together.
So the guide sets up Malaysia as this Southeast Asian gem. It talks about this captivating mix.
Yeah, like total modernity bumping up against ancient traditions. You've got Malay, Chinese, Indian, indigenous cultures all blending together.
And the landscapes. Everything from beaches and rainforests to, massive skyscrapers. It sounds incredibly varied.
That's what the guide really hammers home. It says Malaysia offers something unique for pretty much everyone.
Doesn't matter if you're into nature, adventure, history, or just chilling out.
Exactly. It positions it as having a piece that fits whatever kind of traveler you are.
Okay, that makes sense. It definitely sets you up for expecting variety.
Yeah.
So let's dig into that section. Why visit Malaysia? What are the main hooks, according to this guide?
Well, it hits on a few big themes. Obviously, the multicultural charm, the amazing food, they call it exotic cuisines. The fact that locals are known for being really welcoming, and importantly, for a lot of us, it highlights that travel there can be quite affordable.
Affordability is always a big plus. What else? Any other, concrete reasons it gives?
Yeah, it gets specific. It mentions the year-round tropical climate, though we'll get to some nuances there.
Okay.
Really good public transport and connections for getting around. It also stresses safety and hospitality.
And that diversity again?
And the diversity, absolutely. It keeps coming back to that rich cultural tapestry as a core reason to go. The guide sees these as, fundamental draws.
Okay. Accessible, welcoming, diverse, good value. Got it.
Yeah.
Now let's get to the places. This is where that variety you mentioned really comes alive, right? The guide lists these top destinations.
And they're seriously different from each other. It spends a good chunk of time detailing what makes each one special.
Makes sense. Kicking off with the big one, Kuala Lumpur.
KL, yeah. The guide describes it as the super vibrant capital, a real metropolis. Think modern architecture, amazing shopping, legendary food scene.
The classic big city experience. What are the must-sees, it points out?
Well, the Petronas Twin Towers, obviously. You can't miss those.
Iconic.
The Batu Caves, too, with that huge golden statue. Pretty impressive. Then there's Bukit Bintang, which is flagged as the spot for shopping and nightlife.
Right.
And Merdeka Square for that touch of history. Kind of the essential KL checklist.
And then, a total change of pace, it jumps to an island. Langkawi.
Langkawi. They call it the Jewel of Kita in the guide. It's framed as your ultimate tropical escape.
Beaches, clear water, resorts.
That's the picture. White sand, clear waters, plenty of resorts. The guide highlights things like the Sky Bridge and the cable car. Apparently the views are incredible.
I've heard about that.
We're relaxing on Pantai Sinang Beach, doing island hopping tours, and checking out the Underwater World Aquarium. It's very much about that beach holiday vibe.
Okay, so from island relaxation to culture and food overload in Penang.
Exactly. Penang is where the guide really leans into the cultural mix, and especially the food, calls it the culinary and cultural capital.
And Georgetown is UNESCO listed, right?
Yep. Georgetown's a World Heritage Site. The guide describes it as this amazing melting pot. Must-dos include hunting down the street art,
Oh, that sounds fun.
going up Penang Hill on the funicular, seeing the huge Kekalak temple, and definitely hitting Gurney Drive for the street food. They really stress the food in Penang.
Okay, I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
Yeah.
So after eating your way through Penang, maybe you need to cool off. The guide suggests the Cameron Highlands.
Yeah, the Cameron Highlands are pitched as the cool escape. Totally different feel, higher altitude, cooler temperatures.
Tea plantations.
Loads of them. Rolling hills covered in tea. The guide even mentions the Bo Tea Estate by name. Plus strawberry farms, misty forests.
Sounds lovely. What do you do there?
Trekking, especially in the mossy forest, visiting those strawberry farms, browsing local markets for fresh produce and crafts. It's more about nature, agriculture, and just escaping the heat.
Gotcha. And then for the really wild side of Malaysia.
Borneo.
Borneo, yeah. Covering Sabah and Sarawak. The guide calls this a wildlife wonderland.
Okay.
This is where it focuses on serious nature encounters, indigenous culture, real adventure stuff.
Like what specifically?
Well, Kinabalu National Park, home to Mount Kinabalu, Southeast Asia's highest peak.
Wow.
the Sepalak Orangutan Rehabilitation Center, which sounds like an incredible experience,
Definitely.
exploring the massive Mulu Caves. And for divers, it points to Sipadan Island as world-class. It's a whole different level of adventure out there. And finally, rounding out the list, Malacca for history.
Malacca, described as a walk through history. It's a coastal city that really shows its layers. Portuguese, Dutch, British influences are all visible in the architecture.
Like an open-air museum.
Kind of, yeah. The guide mentions checking out the ruins of a Formosa fortress, wandering down Jonkers Street, famous for antiques and food stalls, taking a river cruise and seeing the statues or Dutch Square with those distinctive red buildings.
Looking back at that list, it's actually kind of mind-blowing. Futuristic cities, historical ports, cool highlands, wild jungles, tropical islands, all in one country.
It really is incredible. The guide makes it clear that this sheer diversity isn't just a side note. It's like the main thing about Malaysia.
It does make you wonder, how does one place offer such completely different worlds?
Well, the guide hints it's that mix of geography and centuries of history, trade routes, migrations, different ecosystems all playing a part. It's not just random.
Which makes planning a trip interesting, I guess. You have to choose which Malaysia you want, or how to maybe stitch a few together.
Exactly. And that leads nicely into the practical stuff. Now that we've seen the places, the guide gives some essential tips for actually making it happen.
Right. The logistics, what does it cover?
Key details, like best time to visit. It actually splits it by coast. November to March is generally better for the west coast. Think Langkawi, Penang.
Oh.
Whereas March to October is often better for the east coast islands. And the currency you'll need is the Malaysian ringgit, MYR.
Good tip about the coasts. What about language and getting around?
Official language is Bahasa Malaysia, but the guide makes a point that English is widely spoken, particularly in touristy areas. That's a big help.
Definitely.
And for transport, it says Malaysia's pretty well set up, good airports, both international and domestic, an extensive bus and train network.
Reliable.
Generally, yeah. And budget airlines are key for hopping between cities and islands easily and affordably.
That connectivity sounds crucial, especially with destinations being so spread out and different. Okay, so speaking of making it affordable and easy, the guide wraps up by highlighting a specific tool, right? FlightNHotels.com.
It does, yeah. It specifically recommends FlightNHotels.com as a go-to resource for planning. Describes it as a one-stop shop online for booking flights, hotels, car rentals, not just for Malaysia, but globally.
Okay. And why this particular site? Does the guide give reasons?
Yep. It lists a few points. You can compare flights from tons of airlines, find hotel deals worldwide, and it mentions checking for budget options like in Georgetown or luxury spots like in Langkawi.
Covers the spectrum, though.
Right. Plus car rentals. It emphasizes the convenience booking anytime, anywhere, and it mentions a best price guarantee, saying the site pulls together options to help find the lowest prices.
So aggregation is key.
Seems to be. And multiple payment options, too, supporting different currencies.
So it's presented as a way to simplify finding good value. Does it give examples of how people use it for Malaysia?
It does, yeah, which is quite helpful. It shows typical searches people make on the portal, things like booking flights from KL to Langkawi,
Common route.
looking for cheap hotels in Georgetown, searching for those fancy resorts in Langkawi, finding eco lodges in Sabah or Sarawak.
Right, matching the destinations we talked about.
Exactly. And also, like, affordable car rentals in KL. It also notes there's a mobile app coming soon, which will apparently offer extra convenience, maybe some discounts, real-time updates, that sort of thing.
Okay, so stepping back, this guide takes us from the overall appeal of Malaysia through all these incredibly varied places, gives us the practical travel basics, and then points to a tool to help lock it all in.
It's a pretty thorough roadmap based on this source. And this deep dive really reinforces that image of Malaysia as, well, enchanting but full of contrasts. Modernity, history, nature.
All rubbing shoulders.
Yeah. The guide definitely suggests you're in for some unforgettable experiences there.
And it ties that potential directly to the planning. Highlighting something like FlightNHotels.com seems aimed at making the logistics feel, I guess, less overwhelming. More affordable.
Right, so you can focus more on the excitement of the trip itself, not just the hassle of booking.
Letting you concentrate on the memories you're going to make.
That seems to be the idea. Simplifying the path from, I'd love to go to, okay, I'm booked.
So, thinking about all this for you, the listener, having heard what this guide highlights, What aspect of Malaysia really grabs your interest? Is it scaling a mountain in Borneo, wandering those historical streets in Malacca, diving near Sipadan, or maybe just relaxing on a Langkawi beach?
Yeah, that sheer variety means there's probably something that sparks your curiosity specifically.
And then the follow-up question is, how might a tool, like the one described, designed to sift through options and find deals, actually help you turn that spark of curiosity into a real plan? Something to ponder.